Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. It's Kieran here. I am here on a very grey, wet and rainy day in Abingdon, just outside of Oxford. I'm here for the Abingdon Marathon. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm not ready for it. In this video, I'm basically going to be putting the new Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung through their paces over the marathon distance to see whether or not they can help me hit a fast time. My race plan today is essentially to go out, cover all of my watches that I'm also testing and run entirely on feel. I'm not going to look at the time at all. I'm not really going to know where I am, how fast I'm running. I'm just going to run it based on my own sort of judgment of my intensity. Back in 2018, when I was here, I ran a 3:11. I kind of blew up about 17, 18 miles. So I'm hoping this is going to give me a little bit more even pace. I'm also going to hope that the Prime X Strung can give me a little bit of an edge. So let's go take a look. So that's the finish, the Abingdon Marathon. I think, I looked at my watch quickly, I don't know, I stopped it, it said 3:01. So I don't know whether that means if I started a little bit late, I get in under or not. But yeah, what a run. I mean, these shoes were incredible. The Prime X Strung's superb throughout. I have got a little bit of a problem with my little toe, which is that kind of de-hooding problem that I get. And I think that's due to the fact that the foot does slide around a little bit in the shoes. They're not the most stable, and when you round corners, your foot kind of does slide, you have to reposition it. But the response, the cushioning, the propulsion, the ride, the energy, all of it was there throughout. I'm pretty sure that has given my legs some extra today. Carried me all the way through. I was still going really strong at the end. As I say, I ran everything today on field, didn't look at my watch once. And I'm now absolutely convinced, having tested that 3 times, that that is the best way to pace a marathon. No one overtook me, I overtook everyone all the way through. And I just got stronger and stronger and stronger and felt good right to the end. So I might never pace myself on a watch again, but yeah, we'll talk more about the Prime X Strung back in the back at the studio. But for now, I'm just going to sort of try and sort myself out. But first impressions after that marathon, that's super quick shoes, excellent race shoes. It is the day after the race where I went and ran a 3:01 and picked up one of these rather beautiful looking wooden medals at the Abingdon Marathon. Great race if you're in the UK, you want to check it out. Club run, excellent organisation, really enjoyed it. Maybe a tricky course, but one to look out for if you feel like doing a fast marathon. And I obviously tested these, the Adidas Prime X Strung. I'm going to put these down now because they are filthy, I don't really want to hold them. But yeah, had a lot of fun testing these out on the course yesterday. Before I get into the details of how these run, a few details to remember here. You've got a 50mm high stack of Lightstrike Pro foam underfoot. That's a 10mm drop with 50mm in the heel, 40mm in the forefoot. The shoes weigh 249 grams in a UK men's size 8.5. That Lightstrike Pro foam in the midsole combines with carbon energy rods that sort of follow the metatarsals, follow your toes to give you that kind of spring and propulsion. You've also got brand new strung uppers. Now these are the main difference between this shoe and the Prime X original. In terms of price, the strung is £230 in the UK, $300 in the US and €275. Now I was hugely impressed with these shoes. Having not done a lot of marathon specific kind of fast interval training, I was wondering how my legs would hold up deeper into the race. And I'm really sure that that really high 50mm stack of Lightstrike Pro foam in connection with the carbon energy rods that they've got in the front and the super sort of lightweight shoe gave me more energy in those legs. I had less tired legs in those last 6 miles than I think I've sort of ever had in a marathon. Now, some of that might be down to the fact that I did 67 marathons in 67 days over the summer, and I'm in good condition. I also ran on feel and I controlled the race really nicely, but there was definitely a lot coming from the shoe. They're sort of bouncy. The amount of kind of spring and propulsion and kind of punch you're getting back from each footstep in this shoe, I think is quite remarkable. It's also quite fun. I really enjoyed running in them. Now, there is a thing where I think you have to be running in a certain kind of form. I found, when I'm on that kind of midfoot to forefoot and really kind of engaging that cushioning, that was when the shoes really came into their own. They've got quite a kind of narrow, I mean, they've obviously got that cutaway in the kind of midsection of the foot, and going into the heel, they're quite narrow. There's another cutaway. So the stability towards the back, I think, isn't really there. But when you're up on those kind of mid to forefoots and you're concentrating and locking in your stride, these things give you an awful lot of response and, a really, really punchy ride that I think definitely helped. The main difference here from these Prime X to, and one of the main differences here in the Strung from the old Prime X is those Strung uppers. They perform like an absolute dream, unlike I think like the Adidas Pro 3, which I find very hard to find a comfortable upper feel when I sort of lace them up. These, I've dropped into them yesterday and they just disappear. You're not really aware of that sort of overall upper wrap. They hold the foot really sort of well across the top of the foot and it sort of vanishes. I really lightweight. I really, really like that. Now, one area I was really surprised with, it was absolutely torrential rain to begin with, and we ran in even some sort of off-road sort of traily bits yesterday through muddy puddles, and I was really surprised actually with the grip and how they held up. One of the main things you look for is I hit drain covers quite a lot, really wet, gleaming drain covers yesterday, moving fast, and they gripped really well across those, so I was really impressed with that. Sometimes into the corners, the stability sort of comes into question, and I feel like in these shoes, sometimes when I'm turning tight corners, my foot does slide off that kind of front platform a little bit, and you have to spend the next kind of 2 or 3 strides sort of readjusting your feet and getting them back on top and then re-engaging that kind of midsole foam and those rods in the right kind of way. It also, that in combination I think with the kind of really wet conditions meant that I suffered a little bit. I have a real problem with my little toe where I get blistered and it sort of de-hoods, and yesterday I think it's the first time I've ever had it really in a proper marathon where it's happened, but that happened, and I think partly that was because my foot was coming off, partly I think also because my feet were absolutely drenched, soaked. Maybe in dry conditions it wouldn't have been as much of a problem. But overall, when I think about the kind of the super shoes that I've raced in and how this compares, I think it's definitely a better shoe to run in over a marathon distance than the Adidas Pro 3. I much prefer it to the Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus. I think it's got a very different ride to the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2, which are a hugely popular shoe if you go by the count that was on the race start yesterday. They're still people's favourites, I think, in many ways. And that's partly because you've got this sort of different ride. These, if anything, are a bit more like the Alpha Fly in terms of that big high stack where you feel like you're off and not as connected to the ground. And if you like that kind of feel, I think this shoe is going to be for you. If you prefer something that feels a little bit more in contact with the ground, a little bit lower stack, then I think the Vaporfly 2 is still going to be a better race shoe. So my verdict then on the Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung is quite simple. This is a fantastic race shoe. I found it a joy to run over the marathon distance. I ran really well. It helped me be in control for the whole marathon. I think that when you're running with that all-out intent in really good form, this is where it's really at its best. It might not be so good if you end up 7 miles to go hanging a bit and dropping out of kind of a really good form. I do think that there is a little bit of sliding off the platform sometimes in tighter corners, so if you know you're going to be doing a really, really twisty and turny marathon, maybe you want to consider something else. It performed really well in the wet conditions. I think it's up there kind of with the Alpha Fly for me in terms of an all-out marathon race shoe. I think if you like something a little bit more connected, maybe the Vaporfly 2 would still be for you. It's obviously a hugely expensive shoe as well, so there's that to consider. I wouldn't be recommending buying this unless you're really, really gunning for PB times. If you're really intent on chasing PBs, if you're just going to go and run a marathon and see what you're going to get, I don't think I'd really bother with it. You've got to be looking for a bit of the marginals to buy it. That said, Absolutely brilliant fun shoe, and I would sort of highly recommend it if you're looking for something to go and bound around a marathon in to have a hell of a good time. So there you have it. That's been my race test of the Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung. If you have any questions about the shoe in a marathon context, or about it as I've run half marathons, I've done quite a lot of in this soon. We're going to have a full review coming up very shortly. Feel free to hit me in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to check out all the other videos that we've got coming. Ring the bell as well, and you'll be notified when that full review hits and other reviews go up. That's really important. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Been a pleasure to talk to you about it, and hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.